Narayana, 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 Narayana. Om Sri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Sri Saraswatyai Namaha. Om Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om Tat Sat. In my recent recordings, I was presenting a chapter from the Lotus Sutra, the chapter number 14, which was titled as Ease in Practice. Meaning, how should a bodhisattva conduct, or what are the steps that should be taken care of? So the bodhisattva means the awakening being, one who is committed to propagating the dharma to the common man and also to the monks and to the other bodhisattvas in the process of his own awakening and also for the benefit of all those people that I mentioned now. The four types of people: the monks and the bhikshunis and the common men and women. All the four categories of people. In that, Bhagavan Buddha mentioned 4 key points to observe. If one is desirous that they want to propagate the teachings of the Lotus Sutra successfully. So those are the 4 suggestions or prerequisites expounded by Bhagavan Buddha to Manjusri. Of course, I did not start Lotus Sutra from the beginning at that time, because I wanted to first present that important aspect of how one should conduct his life with the external circumstances, and then how to correct one's own views, and the vision that one should have of compassion towards the other beings for the endeavor to succeed without causing pain to oneself. And finally, Buddha stressed about the commitment. So in that commitment that I want to help people, one would have found ease in carrying forward his work or her work. Otherwise, the difficulties that one has to encounter on the path will be very, very difficult and unsurmountable, and one may fail in this desire to succeed in being a bodhisattva and finally attaining the Buddhahood. But then this textbook is so interesting. Just like we have the Bhagavad Gita, Upanishads and the Brahma Sutra in the Hindu darshana, one of the 6 darshanas, the Vedanta darshana. These 3 kinds of textbooks are important in understanding the thought of Vedanta. So also there are certain textbooks in the Mahayana Buddhism, which is also aimed at understanding the oneness of all that is, oneness of being, which is the true nirvana, which is the true liberation. So to this goal, Mahayana directs the teaching, and in that huge amount of importance is given to the Lotus Sutra. The Lotus Sutra, called Sadharma Pundarika. White Pundarika means the white lotus. The white lotus of Sadharma is true reality. True reality or true dharma. Sadharma is true dharma or true reality, truth of reality, which is considered as a white lotus. So in which, as we mentioned earlier, Manjusri and other bodhisattvas are addressed by Bhagavan Buddha, and it makes a very interesting teaching. I would like to quickly go through, starting with chapter 1, some of the very important sentences that I came across, so that the people who are interested may take study of this text more sincerely and benefit from it. The beauty of this is the teaching is threefold, which is detailed in chapter 3 and 7 and then 14. Means the crux or core of the teaching is available to you in chapter 3, 7 and 14, and a lot of other prerequisites and other helpful hints, clarifications, and the information that prepares you for receiving this teaching in chapter 3, 7 and 14 is available appended to these. So one would greatly benefit to go through this text sincerely, which would cover the basics that are to be incorporated as part of preparation before one can commit to the path. So I'm taking this English translation, which is very beautifully done by the BDK publications, BDK America, which publishes a lot of these Chinese and Japanese Buddhist texts into English. A very beautiful service. Thanks to BDK, we can read and understand the Buddhist thought that was available from approximately 200 or 250 CE. That is a common era after the Christ. The text which went from India to China, starting from around 250 CE, is available in the Chinese Buddhist canon, which was lost to India later by 500 or 600 CE. So even the comments that we see from Acharya Shankara's commentaries, etc., really did not factor these thoughts completely. That is how I come to infer now. Because there is never any ambiguity in these texts which are reverse translated from Chinese to English, showing that they didn't have understanding of the one self of all. There's never a gap like that. So they did understand that there is only one self. Of course, the methodology could be different. And as we all know, Buddhism did not rely on the Vedic pronouncements. So they don't say, because this is declared by the Veda, we say that there is only one self. So Buddhism does not go by that. So Buddhist thought is very analytical, means they think and argue and logically. So Nyaya was a very important discipline that they followed. And Nagarjuna's Madhyamika philosophy, which really did not commit to a new argument of their own, but tried to say that, in fact, they use the word Chatushkoti, means the 4 ways of analyzing any textual sentence, and then saying that all of them are unstable. They never said we have a stable way. They said all that you present is not tenable. That's it. So an argumentative method that Nagarjuna developed, which is highly appreciated, to establish that there is no individual self, and that is Sunya. So here Sunya does not mean that everything is a void or null and void. It meant that there is no essence in what you call as an individual which transmigrates, or there is no essence in each of the phenomena that we see that is intrinsic to it and different from the intrinsic essence of other phenomena. There is no such thing separately for each phenomena. But of course, there is what is called the Tathagata Garbha, and the seed or womb of Tathagata in every being. So, they also hinted at a Tathagata Garbha, which we can equate to what we call as Brahman, which appears as a seed or individual, but actually it is common for every being here. So we can interpret that sentence, Tathagata Garbha Sutras, are nothing but trying to teach or point to that Brahman, that core of it, that seed of it, which is there in every being anyway. So that is how the Mahayana teaching happens. And so the Lotus Sutra has got a very, very significant place in terms of the Buddha's teaching in three different levels. One common word that we see in the Buddhist circles and the Mahayana is the word called yana, or a vehicle. Yana, or a vehicle, or we should say means, a means. So, of course, though there is a very common misuse of this word in terms of Hinayana, Mahayana and Vajrayana. Truly, the word yana that we are referring to in Lotus Sutra is not really this, one of these three. Though the Mahayana text refers to three vehicles, they do not mean to say Hinayana, Mahayana and Vajrayana. Because by the time this text was written, Vajrayana was not there in existence. So it came much later than that. So, when we see the word three vehicles in the Lotus Sutra, it's primarily referring to three vehicles. Of course, one is the Hinayana, or more of a, what is popularly known today as a Theravada. Theravada means the school of the elders. Thera means elder people. Theravada. Theravada and Thera and Theri. So the masculine and feminine words for elders. So the Theravada is the school of elders, means probably the teachings carried forward by the elders after 500 years after Buddha's passing away, what has been recorded at that time, and later went to Sri Lanka, from there to Thailand, Myanmar, and what else? Vietnam, Laos, etc. Primarily these South Asian countries, and also Sri Lanka. But Mahayana, which directly went from India to China at that time, and from there it continued to the Korean Peninsula and the Japanese Peninsula, and also Mongolia, I think. So those areas where the Buddhism propagated, more popularly known as the Mahayana. So in the Lotus Sutra, the reference is primarily to this Theravada or a Hinayana, or in fact it is called as Shravakayana. Shravakayana. We should not call Hinayana probably, Shravakayana. So because the Buddhist monk was called as a Shravaka. Shravaka. Like we also see the word Shramana. So Shramana. So from there it came the Shramana means bhikshu, nothing more than that. A monk. A Shramana or a monk. Shravaka Yana. And the second one is called Pratyeka Buddha Yana. Pratyeka Buddha Yana. Means it is applicable on self-effort. Pratyeka Buddha means one who becomes a Buddha by his own individual efforts is called as a Pratyeka Buddha. Pratyeka Buddhayana, and finally the Mahayana. So these are the three yanas that are referred to. The text, what it refers to is, truly speaking, there are no three yanas or three vehicles or means. There is only one yana called Ekayana. Ekayana. One vehicle. And that vehicle is Buddhayana. Buddhayana. In a way we can say, like Krishna says in the Gita, Gnana Plava, the boat of Gnana. So here also Bhagavan Buddha refers to as Ekayana, or only one vehicle. Only as a means while teaching skillfully to make it packaged to different individuals with different qualifications. I teach skillfully only some portion so that they are first of all happy. So Buddha explains the concept of, though it is one yana, it is being taught as three yana, three means. But that one means is called Buddhayana. Buddhayana means vehicle of knowledge. Vehicle of knowledge, Buddhayana, or the vehicle of self. As we have confusion in many other places, here too the same thing. When we refer to the self, sometimes we have a confusion whether we are referring to the individual self, which is perceived empirically in the transactional world, or are we referring to the really one self of all? So the word Atma is sometimes confusing. Similar type of confusion appears in the Mahayana text when they refer to the Buddha, the word Buddha. Here Buddha refers to, number one, primarily the one self of all. Second, the Buddha word also refers to what is called as a gnani, or a knower of things. One who has understood this Buddhahood. The self he has understood. So he is also called a Buddha. And final, contextually and incidentally, it so happens that Siddhartha Gautama, because he attained enlightenment, he is also referred to as the Buddha. So one must very judiciously and carefully understand in which meaning the word Buddha is being used. Is it referring to the Shakyamuni Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama, or is it referring to him as Buddha because he attained enlightenment? Or third, are we referring to the self, the one self, which Buddhism calls as Tathagata Garbha, or it calls Dharma Dhatu or Dharma Kaya? Are we referring to any of these three terms as Buddha? So that much discrimination we must have when we study the text. Similarly, when we understand the word Dharma, Dharma, is it referring to the karma? Or is it referring to the Dharma as a phenomena? Means Bhautika Vistara? Or is it referring to the actual principle behind this manifestation? Means the principles governing this manifestation as Dharma, or its nature. Or Dharma meaning, is it referring to the teaching of the Dharma? Dharma is also a word used. So in terms of the teaching, what is the teaching or what is the Dharma? So these are the equivalent. And finally, Dharma also means the self itself. So we have to be cautiously looking at how the word is being used before we translate. So this is the preliminary preparation, and how Buddha presents the teaching in chapter 3 and 7 as the teaching, a unified teaching of the Dharma. Okay? So I will quickly read out a few sentences which I found inspiring and helpful in understanding this teaching. For those of you who may be interested, I see in this book being mentioned that the translation by Professor Leon Hurwitz has got a beautiful summary of the Lotus Sutra in his translation. But of course, I have not personally reviewed that page. And this book, which is being translated from the Chinese of Kumarajiva, so is the book that we are reading. And I am told there are not many differences based on the description given in this book. I see here on page number 8, which is on chapter 1 here, page number 8 in this book, Lotus Sutra. I see some bodhisattvas becoming monks, dwelling apart in tranquility, reciting the sutras with contentment. I see some bodhisattvas becoming monks, dwelling apart in tranquility, reciting the sutras with contentment. The reason I highlighted in my copy this particular sentence is because a bodhisattva by itself does not mean a monk. A bodhisattva is one who is desirous of awakening for himself and who is also interested in the welfare of people and wants to propagate this dharma so they also may become awakened. Some of those bodhisattvas may choose to become monks. And we also see that they dwelling apart in tranquility. Meaning, these monks may decide to exclude themselves and stay in tranquility or in seclusion, but not everybody does so. So living in the society, you can be a bodhisattva or an awakening being, a sant as we say, or a saint or a sage, living in the society and working for the welfare of everyone, reciting the sutras with contentment. So those monks who have retired and they study these sutras to understand what is the teaching of the Buddha completely, and then examine it and internalize the teaching and practice that. So this distinction, of course, we see in the society. Not everybody who becomes a monk is the only one qualified to know the truth of the self or reality. Everybody is qualified, and they are all called bodhisattvas as long as there is a full commitment for them that I am here for the welfare of everybody. That is the bodhisattva commitment. Now here again, on page number 10, furthermore, I see bodhisattvas who have perceived the essential character of all dharmas or phenomena to be without duality, just like empty space. So this is a statement so the initial portion of this text is basically a question posed by Bodhisattva Maitreya to Manjushri, saying, "O Manjushri, this is what I see. So you being one who was with many other Buddhas, please let us know what does this mean." I'm not going to the entire text of that. So this particular sentence that I am referring to appears as part of that questioning, which says, furthermore, I see bodhisattvas who have perceived the essential character of all dharmas or phenomena to be without duality, just like empty space. So because this is the primary tenet and also the understanding that one on the Mahayana path wants to gain, which I also mentioned a few minutes ago. It is saying, I see bodhisattvas who have perceived the essential character of all dharmas. So all the sadhana that we do, practice that we do, is to understand what is the nature of this phenomena. Here primarily is referring to of this universe or the world or the life that we experience here. What is the reality of this, truth of this phenomena? So here phenomena is separate. At this point of time, we should look at the phenomena not with reference to the essential reality behind it. Because for a common man, reality is not accessible. Now, as I am sitting here and talking, I only know the conditioned consciousness. I do not know any other reality than my own awareness here, which is always combined with this body, mind, intellect. There is no scope for me to know this consciousness that I experience and call myself to be separate from the body, mind, intellect. Similarly, wherever, whichever phenomena, a rainbow, thunder, rain, an animal, tree, explosion, I may see in the nature, all of them are already engulfed and consumed and covered by my consciousness, because I am conscious of that phenomena. If I cannot be conscious of that phenomena, how could I say that there is a phenomena? So any phenomena automatically includes my consciousness of that. So there is no other reality than this phenomenal happening, which is already mixed with my consciousness of that, my being conscious of that. So we take different phenomena. Much easier to understand. The people, we say I, you, she, it. All we say living beings, the dog, the cat, the bird. So which we see as living beings, they all are also part of the phenomena as the body mind. But they all seem to have their own consciousness. So the questioning and inquiry goes into this and comes to a conclusion that there is really no essential individual nature in these phenomena. This is already being seen by the bodhisattvas. That is what he is saying here. Because there is no intrinsic essential character of these phenomena separate from each other, they are just like emptiness, that they don't have anything which is core of themselves. This is what it means, the sentence means. Furthermore, I see bodhisattvas who have perceived the essential character of all dharmas or phenomena to be without duality. If there was an essential character of each phenomena separately, then you can say there existed duality. So though there are two different phenomena, a rainbow and a thunder, they look different, but because they do not have essentially something different between these two, then we say there is no duality really. Only apparent that these are two different phenomena, but each of these phenomena does not have something of its own, which is different from the other. So their difference, they are without duality, just like empty space. Space is just one uniform homogeneous. You cannot say this space is different from that space. A pot space is not different from the room space or a open sky, as we see, the space. So the space is space is space. Any other construction may come within the space, but that itself does not divide space. The four walls do not divide the space. The walls themselves exist in the space. So just like this empty space, these phenomena do not have something intrinsic of their own, so there is no duality. What here Maitreya is saying to Manjusri is that there are bodhisattvas of this kind. Where Maitreya is saying, I see bodhisattvas of this nature, this capacity within our assembly. But anyway, please explain to us, etc. The conversation we will see. Okay? Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat. Sarvam Sri Krishna Arpanamastu.